セットライズと逃げろ。誰でもドットできる、誰でもスキルを稼げる、ガバナンスまである。超集権のメディアはもう終わりだ。
真相から立ち上るインクと真実がぶつかる。レバヤさんニュース開かれ海嘘はない。読んで書いて氷結しろ。力はみんなのもの。イカスミをたたえろ。ニュースは君のものだ。レバヤさんニュース。
Hello everyone, what's up? DAdvisoor here, Leviathan News, another episode on a Thursday, probably my favorites. I was born on a Thursday evening, so I think these are my favorites, not by chance. Hope everyone is doing well wherever you are, and welcome to our show today. I'm actually very excited about this one. I know I always say that, and I'm always actually very excited, but definitely today, as I have the honor to have on someone I've actually met a few months ago, back in December, and invited me to my first ever few beers in Switzerland, in Zug. Had the honor of meeting him there and have a very interesting talk with him in person, actually. And I'm talking about Darren from Fusion, from Ipor Fusion, founder, CEO. How are you, sir? Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me. It was nice actually to meet you in person after all these years, knowing each other virtually, and that is a super intense intro video.
Thank you very much. It's actually shout out to Arcus, ARQUS, the Llama, who made it as a contribution. We've been getting so many compliments for it. Like, you know, I often think that being an opportunist is a very useful trait sometimes, quite often actually. And one of my best opportunisms of 2026 so far was approaching Arcus after I saw him do a video for RAAC, actually, the RWA project that I'm about to present, because they're also the SQUID Pass winners of the week. I saw Arcus do a video for them, and then I approached him and I was like, man, maybe you will do some stuff for us, you know. We don't really have any funds to pay you right now, but we can add you to the contributors of Leviathan News for the monthly votes that we do with SQUID DAO. And he went along. And man, honestly, basically every guest that I have on ever since really likes it and gives it a compliment. So shout out Arcos, thank you so much for this incredible video. And if you're a project, by the way, same for you guys, Darren, on Fusion, or other projects that may be watching it, and you're looking for a very capable video guy that's also very savvy about the industry, ARQUS, look for Arcos. If you need me to connect, let me know. I will be honored to. Great guy. He's been doing some other stuff for me as well. Darren, before I start asking you all about Fusion and Ipor and what came first and how it all started and how's it going, as they say, let me just present the weekly SQUID Pass winners, RAAC, actually. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Let me just share the screen. So every week we have these auctions where we call it the SQUID Pass. We're going to do a lot of stuff with it, hopefully. But for now, like the classic one is the SQUID Pass for the pinned posts slots and shout out on the streams like we do now. It's the pinned posts on our Telegram and X. And this week, the winners are RAAC. a lending and borrowing ecosystem powered by real-world assets, focused on the Curve, on bringing all that RWA liquidity into the Curve ecosystem. I've actually known them for a while now. Shout out K Crusher, MD, Florian, and everyone over there. If you want to check it out, guys, go follow them on X at RAACFI and also at raac.io. Let's check out the website just for a second. RAAC, a DeFi lending and borrowing ecosystem powered by real-world assets, featuring RAAC Land, RWFX, and all kinds of stuff that are coming up over there. And their stablecoin, by the way, PMUSD, which you can now earn up to 27% yield on, actually. Check out our pinned post and the description. Actually, I put it there as well for more details. And thank you guys for choosing Leviathan News. And okay, so thank you again very much for joining. And all right, let's talk about what we're here for, which is Fusion. In a few words, Darren, before I even get into more like specifics with you and whatever, who are you guys? What is Ipor? And what is Fusion? What is it all about?
Okay, it's really hard to sum up in a few words, but
take as long as you need, because I want to share the link all around anyway. So
okay, no worries. Actually, we know the RAAC guys. They reached out to us a couple years back. As a credit market, they were looking at the Ipor rates and seeing if they could insert them into their credit market somehow. And so, actually, know the RAAC team. Actually, I just missed Crusher in Denver. But cool to be on a show, where they won the SQUID auction. So maybe that sets the tone. So Ipor started as an interest rate derivative protocol. That's where the protocol's name comes from. Think of it like algorithmic LIBOR for DeFi. And we started as an interest rate swap protocol. Now the new protocol, Fusion, if you're a DeFi native, you're probably thinking of it as like an automated composable modular vault stack. But if you're coming from TradFi, you're thinking of it more as like a prime brokerage stack. What that means is that you're constructing hedge fund-like strategies fully on-chain. One of the major differences between Fusion and a lot of the other vault providers is that Fusion, its entire gating and surface area is fully on-chain. It can be auditable, verifiable by any third party without ever needing to talk with anyone. We built it to be trust minimized. Even the accounting is fully automated. And we have a number of different strategists, curators, which we call atomists, building on the Fusion stack. And that's a basic brief overview.
How long has it been since you guys have established Fusion?
So we, let's see, I think that the first allocation in Fusion may have been September of 24. And this was a very, it was a very long time ago, just kind of the first baby steps into doing full automation on lending optimization. The full-fledged product suite has mostly been live for the past year. So I would say, the first couple of months it was about getting online and testing, and then it's been live now, actually deploying assets for now a year and a half. We've gone through a couple of different iterations, new features, new fuses, and actually we have a V2 now in the pipeline being built, and that comes with a lot of new features. We have a V2 SDK coming out. We actually have a V3 AMM design for the interest rate swap, all these things in the pipeline. But yeah, Fusion's been managing assets now for about a year and a half on chain.
What made you guys do the change from the old Ipor product to Fusion? Maybe you can share a bit about that. I actually was always curious about that, because on my side, as just someone following on X, I just all of a sudden one day saw that it's Fusion. And Fusion by Ipor, and I never actually knew what's up, but I did notice that the product is different, and I'm curious about what made you take the decision to actually shift.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a shift. I would call it an extension. So I think that the first protocol we built, which is an interest rate swap, it's the most important TradFi instrument in the world, the interest rate swap market. It's the largest derivative market in the world. We're talking 650 trillion notional every year traded. But DeFi natives may be too degenerate to understand, or maybe it's not so interesting because you can't, go big or go home, like you can with perp
We're
market.
just not smart enough, Darren. We're just not smart enough. It's only
Well, I mean, and maybe it's the greed, it's the greed side, but also like long-term thinking, right? So there's very little notion of a of a rate curve, of interest rate tenors, of like what is your like what's your borrowing rate for USDC going to be on Aave, tomorrow, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 1 year into the future, right? So crypto degens don't necessarily think like this because we're thinking like, how can we get 10 to 20% in a day on leverage, or in a year on a levered trade, and not really thinking about how like a 50, 100 basis points really affects the profitability of that strategy. And that's where interest rate swaps come in. So I think it's a product that's too early for its kind, the interest rate swap market, and it also is implicit on rational markets, which we don't have necessarily in DeFi. We don't have enough arbitrage. We don't have enough of an efficiency engine for it to be really useful. So we built this first product, the interest rate swap, and how it works is you have the AMM, which is a smart contract that takes in assets, and you can think of it as like a balance sheet for this global decentralized investment bank that's underwriting interest rate swaps. But it can only support a certain number of swaps within a certain risk parameter. Otherwise, it can blow up very easily. And it has to have its assets actually go make money elsewhere, which is capital efficiency. So the first AMM that we built, it already plugged into DeFi credit markets. This was Aave and Compound V2 at the time. And it was pretty static. It was pretty dumb, asset managers, and it deposited to the highest rate and withdrew from the lowest rate. No conception of kind of automated rebalancing. But this was the first construct. And actually, we built Fusion as one of our own internal needs. We always wanted to upgrade this asset management component. And we wanted to build one-click structured products because, again, interest rate swaps are insanely useful. It's just the average user doesn't know how to use them or doesn't know how they are useful. So let me take a specific strategy. So on Fusion right now, there's a Syrup USDT leveraged looping vault that is curated by K3 Capital. And this is doing a basis trade between the cost of borrowing USDT, the rate of return of Syrup USDT, and it's actually optimizing that across two different markets, which is Aave V3 and also Morpho, where Syrup USDT is the collateral asset. So in that trade, actually, if you want to insert an interest rate swap, you can put it on, you can pay fixed on the USDT borrow rate. So, you can fit it into structured products, and actually that's the plan down the road. But the main part of that product is actually the Fusion side, which is the vault side, which is connecting to Aave, connecting to Morpho, understanding the share pricing, connecting the right oracles, and building a user funnel. So yeah, I mean, that's I would say that interest rate swaps and Fusion have a very intertwined future, but they are very different products. So we built Fusion a lot for our own internal needs, and then we realized that it becomes useful kind of for everyone who wants to do on-chain strategies. And now we have about a dozen asset managers or strategists or curators that are building on top of Fusion. We have a couple of very interesting large-scale institutional pilots in the works. And that's a bit more about kind of the origin story. I would say it's not necessarily a pivot. I think it's very much an extension, and the two intersect definitely down the road.
That's a great intro for what you guys did there. And I often find it very bullish when someone or a team builds something for internal needs or like for their own needs because they need something, but because it often inherently has like a very strong PMF.
Yeah. And that PMF is not only for us. Actually, our entire development cycle is driven by, before, we were trying to kind of shove interest rate swaps down people's throats. And when you don't have the sophistication in the market to trade these instruments, you don't get the natural fit, and you have to spend a lot on education. Our PMF in automated vaults is quite clear. You can see that automated and institutional vaults are kind of the flavor of the year in 2026. But it's also PMF, and if you think from an efficient building cycle, every time someone comes to me and says, I have capital, I want to deploy here, can you integrate that market? It means that it's not wasted cost on our development side, because it's someone coming with cash in hand ready to make a purchase or ready to deploy capital. So that PMF is even stronger when you have people that are literally walking you strategies and saying, I need this, I need this.
When you say that they tell you that they need this, because this actually already moves us forward to another topic I wanted to ask you about. Like, what do they need? What do you actually mean? Because like for me, when I look at it, it's like, okay, if someone has an X amount of capital, whether it's an individual or an entity, okay, basically, like in the macro perspective of markets, everyone's competing for the same thing. Like everyone's competing about hosting people's capital, in one way or another. So I would say that probably the larger form of the total addressable market that Fusion has, like many other products, and especially Vault products, is whoever has any kind of capital. Okay.
Yeah.
Where is the specific niche, if you know what I mean? Like, who exactly should be preferring Fusion, and why, relative to all kinds of other like places that they can take their capital?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think DeFi is so complex now that it's very hard for even the power users to stay on top of things. Right. So when I say that people are coming to us, they have strategies that they want to deploy, what do I mean? And also, let's compare this to other vault stacks. So if we go back really quickly in history, you had Yearn V1, which was a vault, which is a contract that takes in pooled capital. And because it's pooled capital, it had, what was kind of at that time an elevated button clicker and socialized gas fees. And that was the first version of a vault, but vaults have evolved very much since then. If you're talking about like, let's say Yearn V3 is using the 4626 standard, but you have to be a pretty proficient Solidity developer to use it. And for example, when I have someone coming to me and saying, I want to build this kind of strategy. For example, let's say that we want to use Aave v4. Fusion's the first vault stack that uses Aave v4. We have the fuses built. We're just waiting for it to be launched, and then we'll deploy those fuses. And everyone on Fusion could have access to those fuses. Fuse is just a smart contract connector that takes the vault and it connects it to an external market. So if you think from a couple of different perspectives, one, if we look at that kind of original vault stack, you would have to have a replicated Solidity developer in-house across multiple organizations, and that's a lot of cost, and that's a lot of replicated cost. Fusion standardizes this with a single fuse, so that means that there goes that Solidity developer cost, not in one organization, but every organization that uses Fusion. The other part is there's speed to market, right? So you can add and remove fuses at will. And so that means that, once that Aave v4 fuse is out, everyone who has a Fusion vault can immediately connect it. So that's kind of speed to market. But the whole idea of Fusion is a receptacle for assets. It's let's call it accounting and standardization of behavior in external markets. And then fuses are your connectors, and they're also your guardrails. So if you think from an asset manager's perspective, they're coming really with strategies. Fusion commoditizes the integration so that they can focus on the strategy. So even if someone's coming with the same strategy, there might be different variations of it. There might be more aggressive strategies. There might be lower risk strategies. There might be deviations on all of these. And really what you're thinking as a market participant is you're looking around and finding basically the vault and the curator that has your desired risk reward kind of trade-off. So you can get kind of anything that you're looking for on Fusion if you pop around and look, for a strategy that kind of fits your appetite. But yeah, I mean, people are building now on Fusion. We have one Adamus or curator who was launched. I think they have 10 vaults live. They may come with something like 5 more in the next month because they can use Fusion to get to market quick. They built their own automation infrastructure in-house. That automation infrastructure has to happen within the Fusion bounds, which are actually literally smart contracts on chain. So that means that security for the depositor, it's a security who is building the strategy, security for who is automating it. I don't know if that answers your question. I think I went a little roundabout.
Yeah, but it actually, again, connects me to another thing I want to ask. And if I'm off, let me know. Within the Fusion ecosystem, if I understand correctly, what actually happens is that, okay, you guys have created this infrastructure that people who want to create strategies, they can come to you. You guys significantly improve the way that they can actually create these like strategies and also get them out there for people to use and be integrated with basically whatever they want to do. And then the other side of the equation, meaning all kinds of users who have any kind of capital wherever, can basically allocate capital to these users. Like, meaning you guys are actually like intermediating between like these two sectors of curators and participants.
It's partially correct and partially incorrect. And I think the incorrect part is that people don't have to come to us. It's fully permissionless. And this is what I mean, prime brokerage infrastructure. It has so many different moving pieces that anyone can use. That's how they can get to market on themselves. So yes and no. Fusion we build as an infrastructure. As Ipor Labs, we build Fusion as an infrastructure. And anyone can use it. But anyone can spin up a vault permissionlessly from the factory contract. And actually, maybe I can run you quickly through this. Is that okay?
Maybe you can show it on screen, Darren?
Yes.
Do you see the button, like whenever you do it? Okay, I will share it just a second. Thank you. Okay. It's on.
So this is the Fusion web app.
This is the Fusion website, by the way. What's the address there?
app.ipor.io/fusion. So here's where you can see some of the strategies, but I want to show you like where, I want to correct one thing, which is no one has to come to us. Fusion is fully permissionless, and that's the point. We just published a post actually just a couple, maybe 1 hour ago or 2 hours ago about
I saw something. That's how I took the thumbnail, by the way, from there. It's something about some kind of an approach to the EF. Maybe we can get to that.
Yes. So I mean, it was exactly that. We published an article, discussing the EF's view on DeFi, and it very much fits in with how and why we built Fusion. So, for example, Fusion, we can go here to this page. It's called Build on Fusion. Build on Fusion, you can build your own vault. So maybe the app.ipor.io/build-on-fusion. And then you can pick your chain. You can deploy permissionlessly. You choose the vault name, vault share ticker, the underlying token or the ERC20 token balance that you want to track, the owner. And you can choose from 3 different management and performance fees. These are DAO-based fees. Depends on what kind of strategy you're doing. If you're doing like a low yield strategy, you want to use the lower side. If you want to use a high yield strategy, you might use the higher side, or this one right in the middle. And that's just to pay for the protocol development. And a redemption delay just really helps avoid kind of flash loan attacks for economic attacks. So building is completely permissionless. You can also build a vault wrapper, which is, let's say you want to build on top of someone else's vault. You can wrap that vault. You can put a custom fee in the middle, and you can pass that through or even white label it. We have a factory for different price feeds, factory for creating different price feeds from Morpho, even a PT factory for price feeds. So all of these things think of them as part of this prime brokerage infrastructure for oracles, for vaults, for vault wrappers. And then if we go into actually like building a strategy, so maybe we'll focus on the building strategy since you talked about like who comes to who. As a depositor, just walk through and see what's happening. But our most popular vault right now is the Ipor ST vault. So this is actually curated by the DAO because this vault actually goes into the interest rate swap AMM to power its yield there. So here's a couple things, right? So first of all, you have your strategy. Actually, all the vaults are or will be risk rated by a third party, and this is Cerberus. So you can just click this link, go download the PDF, learn everything that you need to know about the vault strategy, from the assets to the interest rate risk to the markets. Typically, if you think that in the B range for any leverage vault, so there you can go between spot and 1-day APY. You have the 7-day APY. We have a new interface coming out, but you see we have 2,500 ETH levered up to a little over 24,000, right? So what we can see is track performance. We can see where it's allocated, and we can see the historical allocation. So this vault is quite particular because, as we know, when ETH tanked a couple weeks ago, what happens is every ETH position is under stress. Why? Because you have a lot of people that are borrowing against ETH to get leverage. That has to be paid back. You have people that are getting liquidated. That takes out some funds from the system. And that pushed every leverage looping into the negative. And if we look at some of our competitors out there, they actually show very nice rosy numbers, but we know that's not true because if your ETH is yielding 2.3%, but you're paying 4% at 10x, that's probably about negative 20%. But not other people aren't necessarily as transparent. You can clearly see this here on the graph, but then you can see other things. So for example, with this, I'll jump into quickly like why Fusion is interesting and important. First of all, this automation is all done algorithmically, but it has to be done within the smart contract bounds. So that's user security because fuses are a way to get to market. It's a way to show the strategy. That strategy can be verified by anyone, anywhere, because it's transparent at the smart contract level. And so let's think in restaurant terms. If we're making a dish, you can see the ingredient list on chain, but you can have the secret sauce and the recipe in the kitchen. It's very different from other vaults like a Merkle-proof vault. Merkle-proof vault is either fully opaque or fully open. And when it's fully open, all of the IP is exposed. So there's a lot of different engineering and financial and transparency trade-offs that are taken. We wanted to go the most secure, fully transparent, fully on-chain, and that goes into the ethos of building Fusion. So, for example, here you can see that almost every asset was deployed at Aave v3 core. When those loops went negative, we looked inside of what's out there. Where can we get ETH liquidity? Where can we continue this loop? And actually, Spark was a great candidate because of a number of things. Spark is Aave v3. I believe a friendly for, I can't know the licensing, but it's effectively Aave v3. So we already have the fuses for that. We checked on a Saturday afternoon that they were compatible, deployed them, and were able to upgrade the algorithm or adapt the algorithm there. And so on a Saturday afternoon, when ETH is tanking and all the leverage looping is going negative, Fusion was able to deploy a new market, update the algorithm, and safely allocate there. And not only safely, but intelligently. So you see that actually the Spark side is growing while the allocation algorithm is continuously moving out of those other markets. So if we scroll down here, actually almost 97% is now in Spark. Only 3% of that is in Aave v3 core. So you can see here the credit markets, what's your effective leverage is 9.69, your net APY is 4.7, and you can see the entire balance sheet breakdown. So if we look at this, first, I think this is industry-leading transparency. We want to set the high bar here so that you can always know where's my money. In DeFi, it should never be hidden because it's quite clear. It's very easy. A vault touches markets. It deploys assets. There's no reason you shouldn't show this on the front end. So everything you see here is actually pulling directly from on-chain. The other thing is we can really easily eyeball why that change has happened, because we have a 2.06% borrow rate here. If we're looking at Spark versus 2.47, which is above, obviously, the ETH staking rate, and also here at 4%. So there's no doubt why the alpha, or the automated allocation, has slowly shifted over time. But you can see that at some points it shifts the allocation down, and sometimes it shifts the allocation up. So it's actually quite dynamic. It's not just a dumb algo it's literally doing kind of hedge fund like math for the optimal allocation. Okay, so that's an example of a strategy, but we started talking about building. So if I do a /edit on any of these pages, I can, on any of the vaults, I can actually peek into the backend again, because it's fully on chain, verifiable by anyone. So we can see the vault cap, that the shares are already transferable and already public. And we can see who can do what. So these addresses are who can do what. This, for example, is the Ipor Fusion DAO operations wallet. So that's controlling this particular strategy, while other strategies might have another wallet that's controlling it. You see these different roles here. These can be updated on the front end. Most important is Adamus and Alpha. Adamus sets a strategy, Alpha automates it. And then you can click on the front end. You can see that you can add, let's say we want to add some Pindle. We want to add some Gearbox. Let's say we want to add some other things. We can click on them in the front end, or we can add them in the fuses. So this is a leverage looping vault. So for example, what's the magic formula for leverage looping? Collateral, borrow, flash loan. So you can see that these Morpho flash loan, Morpho collateral, Morpho borrow. That means they can leverage loop on Morpho, Aave supply, borrow collateral. Euler supply, controller borrow. And also here you can see these are for Spark. So these gate the actions. So we know provably that this vault can't trade perps. We know this vault can't do a DEX-LP position by the fuses. Again, this is transparent at the smart contract level. DAdvisoor, you can also install these fuses on your vault. There's no risk of spilling over. Your risk is siloed to your specific vault and the markets that you connect to. The other really cool thing is that Fusion vaults are self-accounting. I don't know why in DeFi you trust someone, trust me bro tech, to mark up the share price from off-chain. If it's on-chain, that on-chain position has a quantifiable result. If you deposit USDC into Aave, you get AUSDC. That AUSDC has a fluctuating exchange price from the interest that it's earning, and anyone can call that read function. And actually the Fusion Vault does that and uses it to update its own balance, for example. So these balance fuses help the vault self-account. These other ones, a couple different things. Let's just go to into the fees. You can see, for example, that this is a rolling high watermark. You can see that this particular one is the Fusion DAO. You can see that there's these core DAO fees that were selected kind of at that vault setup, and then you have an extra 3% that's going to the DAO for the management, for the performance. But the end user sees the all-in figures here, 0.3% and 5%. So you can also customize the different price oracles. You can use a range of pre-hooks. And that's everything that goes into this vault that you see right here. Another thing is, let's say that you want to build your own strategy. If you want to build your own strategy, you can do it, and you never have to come talk to us. So if we take you through docs.ipor.io, so we have this Ipor Fusion for curators and builders. What's a Fusion vault? You can do a vault configuration step by step. This is probably your most useful guide of getting on. And then you have the Python SDK. This allows you to build, allows you to manage strategies within a Fusion vault. So again, you can get to market without ever needing to talk to anyone at Ipor Labs. This is fully permissionless protocol. So that's what I wanted to correct a little there. So literally, you can spin up the vault from the front end with a few clicks. We do have a CLI coming where you can build also the vault. We have an agent which can check the configuration of the vault. We also have an agent that can spit out a graph of the entire touch point of a vault. You have, agentic management is possible through the SDK, and that's probably the only place I would choose an agent or trust an agent to manage my money, because it's sitting within kind of the Fusion. I know exactly what it can touch, what it cannot. And so, yeah, this is why we call it the Prime Brokerage Suite. No one ever has to talk with Ipor Labs. It's open source. It's replicable. You can deploy a vault from the smart contract, the factory smart contract.
That was a great explanation and like show off in a good way. I mean, of what a user can actually do on the app. And everything you've showed us so far is for someone who actually wants to create like to be a curator.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
What's the experience for someone who just wants to come and deposit money?
Well, I think it was that first one that I ran you through in the vault setup, right? It's literally one-click deposit, one-click withdraw, and all of the transparency that you see on the front end. Where's my money? What's it earning? What are the risks? Who's curating? What's the risk rating? I mean, that's the user experience.
Are there any kinds of like parallel products to Fusion, like any like competitors within its specific niche? How would you interpret that angle?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of competitors on the vault side. I think that we took a very unique kind of route to building. We've been kind of in a bit of a world of our own, because Ipor Labs is always innovating from a first principles perspective. So even with the interest rate derivative protocol, right, we built an interest rate swap market and a benchmark rate from scratch. Well, we had a lot of other competitors, and obviously Pendle has been the one that survived and dominated that market in the yield stripping, which is more of like a bond coupon market, right? But at that time, there were, I think, 5 or 6 different relative copycats doing yield stripping, and that went down to 1, right? And then we still have the interest rate swap, which is a very different product. Then again, in the vault space, you have a lot of people that used very similar things or took inspiration or downright forked. So Yearn has always been the pioneer here, and the Yearn v3 is a very great product, but it's much more difficult to build on if you're not a Solidity native kind of DeFi developer. And then you have the whole plethora of what is it called? The Merkle Proof vaults, right? Merkle Proof, I believe that what's the name? Sommelier was a pioneer, and now you have different shades of that with Veda, with Machina. It's all this Merkle Proof construction, but I don't like Merkle Proof because you can't see inside the vault, and there's a couple of things there, right? I think that they push this idea of naming it the boring vault, but that's a really horrible misnomer, because this boring vault can absolutely do anything, and there's no bounds unless you can have access to this Merkle Proof. And the Merkle Proof is just a construction of every single path or every single action that vault can take. So you're at this trade-off in Merkle Proof as a vault operator, whether you build a restricted set and maybe you didn't add something that you need to do to exit in a risk situation, or you have a very wide set of actions, and then it becomes a bit useless to have this proof guardian. Whereas Fusion, everything is gated on chain. This was one of our principles that we took to the design, and it was that everything that can be done on chain should be on chain, from the gating to the security to the accounting. And I think that shows really in our ethos shows in the end product.
That's actually an interesting angle to continue on. especially with someone who's not only the founder, but also the CEO of the project that he's leading. How would you say, how important is the aspect, especially in such a, because, especially when I talk to you, this is a highly technical niche. Like you have to understand to really understand everything you've just shared with me here. You really need to understand finance very well and the DeFi space very well, and probably a lot of how stuff works on the back end. But your recent comment from half a minute ago actually touches on a thing that I personally can more easily resonate with, which is the culture aspect and vision aspect of things. How important would you say that part is in such an industry as DeFi? How much would you say of the weight of what you do actually is very much connected to the ethos of where you think Ipor should go? How big of a decision of a factor is it in decision making?
Okay, let me take this and build on it in layers. So first of all, my ethos is, it's a very kind of OG crypto ethos, which is don't trust, verify. And I really love DeFi, right? DeFi is kind of everything that we were looking at in the early days. We talked a lot about build your own bank or be your own bank, and now it's actually possible to build entire financial constructs on chain, fully permissionless, decentralized, and this is it's quite amazing. But I don't like to trust, and it's not that trust is necessarily bad. It's the trust is where things go to die. And if you look at what happened, so we had 1010 in the centralized exchange, which led to the stream finance blow up, which led to a huge bleed in every kind of DeFi yield, and caused a lot of kind of structural damage and took out some funds with it. So the whole stream finance debacle was built around trust, right? So actually we talked to the founder of Stream on the very early days as they were rising in notoriety. Very brilliant. And in the end, we couldn't come to not necessarily an agreement. It was just impossible to build stream finance on Fusion because Fusion is legit decentralized, it's trust minimized, and they needed the ability to take assets and deploy them at any speed, anywhere without any bounds, on a very aggressive yield strategy. And so where Stream went to die was the lack of transparency, the move fast, and break things kind of mentality. And so this is where things tend to blow up, is in the trust. So that's from the DeFi native ethos. From the other vision side, actually Fusion vaults are now being picked up by a lot of institutions. And that's our number one focus because institutional asset management it's a huge market. So there's a couple of different things there. One, you're going to have a lot of guys that come over from TradFi to DeFi. They know strategy, they know risk management, they know statistics, they can they can code in R, they can code in Python, they know how to build stuff, but they've never touched a smart contract, and they probably never should, because smart contract math is where everything also goes to blow up in the edge cases. So from what I showed you on the front end, or telling you the other ways to build a vault, from the front end, from the CLI, and management from the SDK, or you can build your own bespoke script. This is perfect for all the TradFi guys that are going to be managing assets in DeFi. They get their one-click prime brokerage experience, actually moving the pieces on the front end. They can build their own Python automation, and they can get active in DeFi. So it's not only this, kind of vault ethos, it's actually, we built it thinking with these guys in mind. And then from the ethos perspective, it also looks into, how these guys are thinking, which is, for example, how do you think about risk? Risk in DeFi, it covers so many different topics, but most of the risk is financial risk, it's market risk, it's smart contract risk. And as an insurance provider, if you don't know what you're underwriting, you can't insure that. So we have some other partners that are in the wings that are looking at Fusion Vaults versus other stacks. And why is Fusion Vaults insurable? Again, because a third party can look on chain and see the entire risk surface of the vault. On a Merkle-proof vault, this is not possible. You can't insure what you can't underwrite. So it's not just that this like crypto native ethos goes deep, but it's also that, you know, even from traditional finance perspective, these are non-negotiables. So I'm really happy that, you know, the way that we build our design principles are turning out to be some of the huge advantages of Fusion versus other stacks.
That's very interesting to think about as well. Touching on that point, in the future we're heading into, how big of is the institutional sector gonna be? Because you know, when I look at it, I actually always felt that in a way, especially after like the first maybe year or two in DeFi summer, where in a way you had that. Finance is going to the hands of the masses, and no one wants any intermediaries and all of that. As time goes on, at least like the way I see it, the public doesn't want that. Like the public doesn't want to control its own money mostly. It wants these intermediaries where they see them as people with a lot of knowledge and authority.
They don't necessarily want the intermediaries. They just don't want to work it themselves.
Exactly, like I'm talking about at the very like basic level of like people don't want to manage their own funds and be responsible to that. They enjoy the fact that there is another entity, whether it's like no matter how much of a custodian that entity is or is not, but like they want like someone to talk to, someone to approach, someone to actually, the way I interpret it actually, someone to remove the responsibility from them. Like they don't want that liberty or freedom of owning their own money as the cypherpunk ethos. And honestly, I can understand as time goes by, I can actually more and more understand that perspective again. In the world that we're going into, following up on that, how big do you think that the institutional sector within DeFi is going to be? Because in a way, it feels like it's taking over the industry.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, the limits of DeFi are only limited to the money created in the world, because, you know, if you look at stablecoins, it's just you know, you can tokenize a bank deposit. You can tokenize bank deposits are the biggest because, you know, the algorithm stablecoins have you know, they have a cap issue. But like BlackRock, 14 trillion, right, under management. It's a huge number. It dwarfs everything in the AUM inside of DeFi. So in DeFi, we're pretty stuck with the idea of that we wanted to attract DeFi native capital, and you see what happens. Everyone eats incentives, and then the really pie doesn't grow. If you look back to DeFi summer, you had a lot of people that were stuck in their homes during COVID. You had in the US stimulus checks, so you had actually external money entering the system. And that's in the retail side. If we look at that kind of 2020, 2021, you saw a massive uptake inside of DeFi because you had traditional bank deposits, actually exogenous money coming into DeFi. That number is dwarfed by a single institutional manager bringing assets on chain for yield. And so I think that, you know, that's a little bit of where we're going. And the other side is like, everyone's talking about institutional vaults this year, and everyone's talking about RWAs. And for me, RWA, you know, whether it be tokenized gold, it might be a tokenized stock, it might be something else. For me in DeFi, the majority are collateral instruments. If you have, like, let's say a private credit instrument, maybe you can loop that inside of a vault. But if you're having something like a stock, you might want to pledge that as collateral, borrow against it, and get yield in DeFi and return that to the base asset. So I see RWAs as a potential massive collateral which will bring in more depositors in stable coins. And that will bring in more financial activity because people will be borrowing more. That means that there will be more places to lend. That means that there will be more on-chain yield and ways to loop that kind of DeFi native yield. That can be on for example, on Fusion, we have instruments like Syrup USDT, leverage looping of Syrup USDT, leverage looping of SI USD by Infinify, leverage looping of wrap staked RUSD by Reservoir. And so that's massive balance sheet expansion. That's a lot of basically monetary activity that's happening. So I think that the influx of exogenous assets, not only bank deposits, but RWAs, can expand the TVL inside of DeFi. And you need products like Fusion actually to optimize the capital efficiency. Fusion is a capital efficiency engine. Fusion accounts for anywhere from 5 to 20% of Morpho's demand side on any given day. Fusion is powering a third of Infinify's TVL, a quarter of Reservoir's TVL. And so it's already a massive kind of power player in DeFi. And the more vaults that are built around that, the more it's just kind of this economic efficiency engine.
I didn't know that, actually. That's very cool. And I think that this, for a protocol to also be able to establish an important like B2B role within the industry, I think it's a huge power. And really shout out to you guys and right on that. Darren, how long do you have? Like, I want to ask you some other stuff, but I know that you're probably very busy. I don't want to delay
go for it.
Okay. Let's actually start then with the post that you guys have shared about the EF just an hour ago. Take us through that. Like, what's the main message there?
I'll be honest. I just read the post today. It's our growth marketing lead who wrote it. But I asked him,
you guys are really publishing an insane amount of content, I must say.
Insane amount of content. That's good to hear, and it's also good to hear that it's being picked up. So let me. I'm gonna open it up.
I'm seeing it all over the place. Like, I don't think that, like, every few days I'm seeing any. Sorry.
I'm gonna open it up and I'm gonna browse it with you.
Go ahead. Pop it up on screen if you don't mind.
Let me see.
By the way, shout out to your graphics guys as well. Always like very cool images to all these articles. And really, I can't think of many projects who are putting out so many articles like at that kind of a pace. It seems like basically every week I see at least one.
We're trying to lead in a lot of things, and like kind of especially we want to have industry leading kind of everything. Tech, infrastructure, front end. Okay, so Fusion, open source vault, how we tick the box, security at the architecture level. Can you see it?
Let me just pop it up on screen for everyone to see as well. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so open source vault engine for the DeFi ecosystem. It really ticks a lot of the ES vaults. So we already talked about like kind of the security at the architecture level. So security is isolated to the vaults and the connected markets. Also, fuses are immutable. So that means that you, for example, you connect a fuse, you don't have to worry about me, the fuse author, changing that fuse, for example. Access control is native. I already walked you through that inside of the vault. You also have a guardian role, which can pause. And so this is security kind of built in at the stack level. Agent native. Okay, agent native is, like how can you give this to an AI agent? Again, you can spin up a vault from the factory contract. We will have a CLI out. You can spin it up from directly from the contract yourself, or you can do it on the front end. You can set up all of the vault parameters, again, directly from the contract or directly from the front end. And that creates, let's say, the safe space in which the agent can run around with your money. If you don't want to trade perps, don't integrate perps fuses, and then the agent can't trade perps. So then you have the alpha, which is the perfect interface for agentic management on chain, right? So this alpha, you can write a script to manage in the Python SDK. So for example, let's say I make a strategy, and DAdvisoor, I give you the alpha role, which means that you can play with my assets. I already know as a curator what you can and can't do. So this is where my safety comes in. Maybe the worst thing that you can do, you could mess up slippage parameters and get me MEV'd, or you could leave the vault assets unallocated in the vault, but then I can actually just kick you off the roll. So again, this is a great construct for agentic management. Oracle aware by design, we have this entire price Oracle middleware basically inside of the vaults. I showed that to you a bit on the factory contract, and you can choose anything that's kind of Chainlink compatible or build your own price feeds. It's open source BSD3 clause and the walkaway test. So for example, it works if we walk away. The smart contract is deployed. If you go build that factory smart contract, you're the owner. You never have to ask me for anything. So let's say something happens. Let's say I go into a coma tomorrow. You'll always be able to access that because you're the full owner of that. And that was one of the requirements. So Fusion, we could stop supporting Fusion and it would still work. So that's it.
Man, this is so cool, and really shout out to your content department over there. I think you guys are doing some brilliant work on that aspect as well. Darren, take me through like a day or a week in your own life. Like, what's it like to be a CEO of a product like Fusion? What is your day made of, if you know what I mean? Like, you get up in the morning, okay, like what are the tasks? What's actually there to be done, especially in an industry where, it's all about like, just like you said, having the walkaway test. But I'm still kind of convinced that you're not walking away on any angle, and you're busy like 24 hours a day or 20 hours, wherever you're awake, on actually, I don't know, like I'm imagining talks with potential establishments, entities, whales, users, power users, curators, whatever, just getting the message out there. What can you maybe share about that angle?
Yeah, first of all, I can do what I do because we have what I would consider as hands down the best team in DeFi. We have what I would say is a small size team for the complexity that we do.
How many, by the way? How many people?
15 of us. Okay. And everyone is at the top of their domain expertise. So without them, Fusion wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't be what it is, and I wouldn't be able to do my job. So that's the first thing. And also the guys are all using AI augmentation of their workload. And since the beginning of their productivity has gone through the roof. So our rate of change and increase in quality and output is huge. So that's that. Fusion, like on the team is a very, everyone has their course that they have to follow because of kind of a long-term directive that I've put, and they're heads down building that until I disrupt their course with a new strategy that's coming in. So that's in the operational sense. I'm throwing wrenches in the gears all the time, but it's almost always because that means that we're building for someone that's definitely going to deploy capital, that they have something that they want to, they have something they want new that they want to build, something new that they want supported. So the vast majority of my time, I would say, is spent on three things. Well, four things. Then we'll break one. Long-term strategy. I shared a little bit of that with you. Long-term strategy right now is very much institutional focused. People, which is getting the right people in the door, and that's actually right now quite easy because of the team that we have. We do have a few things that we're looking for right now, but very clear directive on that. So again, it makes it easy because we hired some of the best people and really invested in them to scale. and building together now. Most of us have been building together for the past 5 years, actually. And that continuity is huge, that continuity and trust. So then that takes us to basically capital. Capital is a couple of different things. It might be either the depositors or it might be the curators. And so that's one of the main things that I'm doing. I travel actually too much, trying to cut down on the travel, do a lot remotely, but bringing on different curators, different asset managers. And it's not just that on the capital side, it's also distribution. How can Fusion Vaults be distributed through different networks? For example, Anchorage Bank is a crypto native chartered bank in the US. They have a non-custodial wallet called Porto, and Fusion is one of the first 4 partners in the DAdvisoor program. So, for example, this is one of the integrations that they're quite excited about, and that's another part of the strategy for distribution. So distribution, onboarding capital, onboarding new asset managers and curators, and strategy and people. So I would say that's my day. Any number of activities that touch those.
You know, Darren, you're a very good interviewee. Like, you actually know, you have answers to questions. So it's a lot of fun, and it makes the interviewing work so much.
You just tell me something. I'm getting the feedback from ChatGPT, and I have the brain implant, and it speaks. So there you go.
Excellent job at the OpenAI team. They should consider changing it to Open Fusion.
Exactly.
AI. Okay, just to wrap it up, where do you see you guys in like what's ahead? What's the future for Fusion? What do you hope to achieve in 2026 in the following years? Where do you hope to lead Fusion going forward?
I think that Fusion has 2 different paths from here, and they're both intertwined. One is the permissionless side, and one is the institutional side. Institutional side we're working very hard on just because of the size of the opportunity there. Basically building all the tooling for the traditional asset managers that are getting into DeFi, working on these kind of these pilots with regulated partners. And then there's the fully permissionless DeFi side, which very much matches with the EF's vision. And so, for example, we have a tool that's coming out. It's called a lending optimizer wizard. I was playing with it in my hotel room at ETH Denver. I was able to spin up a vault, add the different markets, make the first deposit, and be fully allocated. And that automation algorithm will go on and on in under 30 minutes. And as much as I'm a huge shill of the same thing that we build, seeing it is a different experience. So that permissionless side is one of the most interesting things to me because of the DeFi ethos, of the crypto native ethos. And then the longest term opportunity and the interesting thing is how these interest rate swaps play back into these structured products. Because again, if we get this like really massive revival of DeFi native yield because of the influx of RWAs, because of different things that may happen in the macro, then that means that these interest rate derivatives and the EV3 AMM, they're not really being traded by a lot of retail, maybe not even sophisticated traders, but they're going into one-click vaults, which become structured products, and that drives volume, interest rate swap volume to the AMM. It gives the depositors a predictable yield. It fixes one of the legs, and maybe we can fix the other side to create these nice structured products. And I think that ties really well together. So, Fusion was created as a structured product suite to power interest rate swaps inside of the structured products. And I think that we're going to see that. The question is when. We still need to have time we have the V3 AMM scoped out. We still need to build it. We'll have the V2 of Fusion out before that. But I think this is how it plays out. I think all of those have a very nice and growing, expanding opportunity and footprint of their own. So to have really kind of three core lines by the DAO is super exciting.
So cool. By the way, I didn't even get to the part of you guys also have, from what I saw, like and I remember actually you mentioned it to me, you have like a referral program as well, meaning that there are a lot of ways for the different participants within the ecosystem to actually get some additional benefits by creating these strategies, I guess, or even just letting others know about them. I know that, for example, I created my own ref link and put it in the description here for anyone who wants to use Ipor, and they can just use it. And then, like from what I saw, like both sides benefit from using Fusion through a ref link, for example.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
So shout out to you guys for thinking on that of that angle as well. And thank you so much, man, for joining me on this one. It was a lot of fun. I hope it was okay for you as well. And shout out to you guys for building such great tools for just a better financial future and some financial freedom to all of us. So much respect. Thank you for coming on. We'll give another shout out to RAAC for thank you so much for getting the SQUID Pass for the week. RWA, a DeFi lending. Let me show the website instead. A DeFi lending and borrowing ecosystem powered by real world assets. Mostly will probably be used as collateral, just like Darren says. I definitely agree with that angle, and I will, of course, as I tend to do ever since we have that video that Darren commented actually by Arcus. Shout out Arcus. I don't use it just as an intro. I also use it as an outro, to be honest. So guys, so, by the way, I'm going live in about an hour and a half with the Volts FYI team. I'm starting a new show with them, hopefully.
Okay, very nice.
If you have anything that you think we're going to present some interesting Volts from throughout the week, they actually have this new channel that they've started on Telegram. I really recommend you join it, and whoever's listening as well, where they take a lot of Volts, like a Volt a day, basically, I think, and they just like give a breakdown for, like, you know, someone like myself to really be able to understand, okay, this Volt works like this. The money comes from here. This is like the risk you're taking. This is the opportunity that you're getting. Yep. Like this is basically the equation of the.
Ask them about that Ipor DAO staked ETH looping vault on mainnet. That would be interesting.
Ipor DAO staked ETH loop. I will do that, and so see you in about an hour and a half or 2 hours, guys, and thanks again for joining, Darren.
Thank you. Bye, cheers. Bye.
Yo